Hello guys, Vengeancer here. And yeah, I'm grinding Vadus again. This is pretty much all I've been doing every time I'm on Black Desert. I'm either doing my daily, what I call BDO chores, just my daily turn-ins for like Imperial, my fishing resets and stuff, because I usually go back to Heidel and fish when I am AFK, but now that I'm actively here, I'm trying to grind this. I had to do the grind anyway because the things that I had for drop rate increase were expiring, so if I didn't grind now, I was going to lose out on the Old Moon Scroll buff of 50%. We're currently running enough stuff to get us at we're at like 305%, even though it caps out at 300. But it was a 296, and then I used what is it? One of these, so I increased it 10%. So I missed out on like 5%, but that's all right. I've already gotten a couple of pity pieces in the 10 minutes or 12 minutes, whatever, 13 that I've been here. Yeah, 13, 14 minutes that I've been here, so that's not bad. I did one other hour that I didn't record, and I ended up with 9 pity pieces out of that hour, so drop rate's been a little better than previous. Of course, I start recording, I probably won't get any more at all. It's kind of funny. Get out of here. So, we just grinding away here at this terrible Vadus rotation. Not as bad as, oops, I didn't mean to use that skill. Anyway, back to dance, fighting my way through these. And I've been doing a few things outside of game and even in game. It's I wanted to talk about. Let me clear these before I open up so it doesn't close us out. In game, I got 59 30 stacks and 17 40 stacks. We're still low on like the 60 stacks. So I might have to try and bump some of these 30s up to 60s, and then we'll be able to do another Black Star enhancing session. As long as I have 100 stacks and I have 30 or 40 stacks, we're okay. The 50 to 60 stacks for the duo to try attempts on Black Star, those will just come from trying to enhance from Pride of Duo, or I can use the Rebloth. Also, I'm doing the 2000 monster quest for the Dark Hunger or whatever those things are. The Ellie event that increases your fail stack. I still haven't spent the silver on these. If I turn all 10 of these in, it's going to cost me 3 billion silver, which is a Black Star enhancing session. I usually spend about 3 to 4 billion silver on each session that I do enhancing for those, so just a little bit of a heads up on that. But I may end up spending the silver there and then not enhancing. When I spend that much silver, it's because I'm buying 1,000 memory fragments at a time, and that's because I either haven't had time to farm them, or I've just been like grinding out here farming the silver instead of running the memory fragment scrolls. I still got like 1,000 relics or whatever in the warehouse, so I can still run those and get the memory fragments without having to spend the silver. So I may just do that instead of buying the mem frags. I'll just turn them into the Origin of Dark Hungers. But that leads me into the other thing that I wanted to talk about, and then it kind of all chains into one subject, because I've been trying to figure out finances in game and out of game. It's something we have to do throughout life, and I've kind of hinted around some of this stuff, but I haven't really talked about it. We kept some of it personal. So last year, a little bit of background before I get into what I wanted to talk about. and there isn't really anything to see on the screen, so this is going to be one of those videos where you can just put it up and listen while you're grinding. There isn't really much to talk about or look at. I mean, I'm just bouncing around killing fetuses. So last year, beginning of 2022, coming off the back of, you know, the sickness that was all over the place. Be careful with my words. I don't want to get kicked off of here. I decided that I needed a change. We had worked from home, and that kind of drove it home for me. But we had worked from home for a while, and I had caught, like, it's not even a word. I had caught the sickness, and so, you know, I'd worked from home, and I just wasn't. It wasn't my first corporate level place of employment by any means, but I decided I didn't want to do that anymore, that I needed to change, and I could see what was happening in society, at least around here, where I live. And granted, this was beginning of last year, like end of 2021, beginning of 2022. I made the decision to leave where I was employed at and move back home to our family farm and take over part of it and grow it into a small farm where we're producing most of our own stuff, our own food, looking at getting into like making our own soap, that kind of stuff, because of supply chain issues coming off of, there's another pity piece, coming off of the whole supply chain issues that we were having, you know, the stores, shelves being empty, all that stuff. And it should have been an eye-opener for a lot of people, but I don't think it was. But for me, I saw a lot of this coming, so we were prepared even before. Like, we had stockpiled quite a bit of stuff. And I've always been kind of a minimalist anyway. But I made that decision, you know, I wasn't making huge amounts by any means in terms of like salary. It was like mid 50s yearly, which wasn't terrible, especially for the area that I live in. That's middle class, you know. You live very comfortably if you're not just spending constantly. We weren't hurting for money by any means, and I was able to have a huge nest egg that we had by savings and, you know, that kind of stuff. Well, I decided to leave that. My wife, she has a career that we focused on, and so I was doing everything around here. And for the first year when we were transitioning, we weren't even living in our own place. Our house had burned. That kind of made another huge decision that went into it. But throughout that whole transition phase, I was basically like a stay-at-home husband. I still am, but oops, I hit the resurrection thing. So I'm taking care of everything here and at the farm, but we don't have, if we're both working, that means the farm work doesn't get done. One of us has to be here, whether it be her or me, and a lot of the stuff she can't do. Running the machinery, she doesn't know how to drive that stuff. A lot of like lifting, and you know, I'm not a strongman by any means, but I have done quite a bit of weightlifting, and I don't run into many things that I need to do, that I don't have the physical strength to do. But if she tries to do a lot of that stuff, she will struggle with it. So, you know, that's another factor in why I'm the one staying basically unemployed. I mean, I guess you could say that. I'm self-employed but unemployed. I'm not working for anyone else. Let's put it that way. I work for myself and my wife. But that was our big decision going into that. Was a lot of the just the situation in society and stuff. And I have not been I've been pretty open about it. You know, I have anxiety really, really bad, and I never had a problem with doing any of the work that I was ever tasked with in working for someone else in jobs. And the job that I recently left, it's what I went to college for. You know, I have a bachelor's of science in computer science. I am a programmer. Even though I grew up on a farm, I'm kind of like the most diverse. I've got all kinds of background stuff that I do, so I know how to do most things that I need to do. But I was working as an application developer, and I never had a problem with completing any of the tasks that I was assigned. You know, building in the applications, none of that. I love the programming. I love to just shut myself away and work. And I'm one of those people, if I get focused on a task, I won't eat. I'll just sit there and work. And I would work 40 hours straight. And I wouldn't sleep, I wouldn't eat. I would just pretty much just sit there and work. I mean, maybe that's a sign of severe ADHD or something like that, but I mean, that's just kind of my personality. You know, I get focused on something and I just go until, you know, I look around and realize, oh, it's no longer daylight, or I feel really bad because I forgot to eat today. But all that aside, it's all kind of just a little bit of background to kind of set up what I want to talk about for this video. But the factors going into why I left and decided to go the self-employment route or the farming route was because I couldn't deal with the social anxiety anymore, and I've always had that. But it got to the point where, and I don't want to put anyone down or make it like it's anybody else's fault, but when you have a deadline to complete something, in my case it was a piece of software, and I'm waiting on other individuals, and I know this is pretty common in the tech industry. I was waiting on someone else to give me feedback because I needed to make changes in a design, and I had to get the basically end user feedback, and I didn't have to communicate with anybody outside the company, but basically I was part of an IT department that was in-house, and we had like 600 something employees, and so I was building things to cater to coworkers, not end users or customers. We didn't sell anything, being the nature of our job. So I didn't have to deal with like disgruntled, and I have been on I worked in a call center for a while before taking on the coding jobs, you know, so I have had to deal with disgruntled employees, and I always hated that, or disgruntled customers as an employee, so that's never fun. But anyway, I was waiting on deadlines, and I got to where like some things were even like the boss that I had, the manager, a lot of it was like he had to approve stuff. Everything ran through him, and when I have a deadline and people are putting pressure on me and I'm waiting on someone else, my hands are tied and I can't do anything. I can't move forward or backwards. That's severe anxiety inducing. And like I said, I have a tendency to have anxiety anyway, so it just added to it. But that was another big factor. I just couldn't deal with that anymore. It was causing me problems. I was having a lot of health issues based on it. You know, I have severe anxiety every day. I wake up, I would hate life. I hated going where I was going. I severe dread every day, and I had to drive 40 minutes one way, 45, 50 minutes one way to get to that place. There's another pity piece. And then sit there, you know, I'm cooped up inside, and fluorescent lights in a sterile environment was bad for me because fluorescent lights trigger other health issues, and they let the other coworkers in there run like space heaters and stuff because it was all climate controlled, and you couldn't change thermostats, so they would plug in and run space heaters. So it was a very dry environment, and with the sinus problems that I have had, the chronic ones, yeah, I was having migraines daily. So I was downing Rockstar energy drinks daily, plus coffee. So I was having like 600-700 milligrams of caffeine a day just to function, just to keep migraines down. And it was toxic. It was a toxic place for me. And then what was the other thing that I was thinking about? There was one other reason that it just popped into my head, and I forget what it was. But anyway, so it sitting inside all the time, it was just a bad thing. But I'll remember what I was gonna say here in a minute, probably. Oh, I remember now. It was supposed to be a sterile environment, and there were a ton of activist groups going on through the whole pandemic thing, and this was supposed to be a place that was not supportive of any one group. It was supposed to be very non-political and sterile. Even they started backing very activist groups, which I'm not going to put an opinion out on it, but they were backing groups like Black Lives Matter and other things, which that's fine, but not when it's supposed to be a sterile work environment that you get in trouble for talking politics, and then they're going and backing political style groups, and you're asked to take down posters or flyers if it's backing the boys in blue, the police, but yet they're hanging up all these Black Lives Matter activist things. So they were showing favoritism through one group or another and making the work environment political when it was supposed to be a sterile work environment. You're not supposed to be biased. And so that was the last straw for me. I said, I can't do this anymore, and I left. And I tried to work with them and told them, because my wife was on night shift and I was never seeing her, I would leave before she got home, and then she would sleep all day and I'd be at work, and then she would leave and be gone because she would have to be at work in the evenings, and I would get home basically when she was leaving or after she'd already left. So we wouldn't see each other for days at a time, even though we were basically, it was a pain. But so I just finished that Kill 2000 Monsters quest. So it was a bad environment to be in, and so I asked them if there was any way that I could switch my hours. No, you gotta have core hours, you can't do night work, which that's fine, but they didn't want to work with me. And I said, well, if there's nothing you can do, then I gotta go. I don't know what to say other than sorry, but this is my 2 weeks. So I did that and I left. And it was a scary thing, going from having a stable income to not knowing. We went from that to relying on just my wife's income, and so now we've been frugal, and she's felt the pressure because the pressure is put on her to keep her job currently, and we're fine overall. But all of that was background for what I wanted to really talk about today. So I made the choice to leave working for someone else at the beginning of 2022 and go down the farming route. The weather kind of caused us to not have a very good time, and things didn't work out the first year, but this year we are going full strong, which is where I've been yesterday and today and over last weekend. I've put, at the end of today, hopefully, if not, then tomorrow, I will have put about 700 plants in the ground. We got all the plants in. We are ready to go. So I'm doing the whole farming thing, and I'm trying to find out where I need to go for like selling off produce, farmers market stuff. So I'm figuring out all the business side of things right now. But that is a because there's different licensing and stuff you gotta have, and state laws, city laws, just all kinds of crap that you gotta deal with. And I wouldn't worry about it, but where we're at in the middle of nowhere, there isn't enough traffic to support like selling produce off, so I'm gonna have to go and like sell in the city. So I'll have to kind of find out about that kind of stuff. But my subject today is income and value overall. And I want to use a few examples to kind of back my point up here, but as a society, we have shifted away from looking at people as having value unless they have a huge salary. And this isn't like a defense talk for myself. I really don't care how I'm viewed, really, but there's a point that, you know, and I even find myself doing that to myself. It's like, oh, I quit my job, I don't no longer have that huge salary coming in, I don't bring anything to the table, and it's just not true. I have to stop myself and say, look, what you're doing is working towards something a lot bigger than just a salary every 2 weeks. So what I mean by that is basically, if you're not making a huge salary, a lot of society now looks at you as not having value. And an example is, I've put in hundreds and hundreds of hours now building up our farm. When I started I took over this 20-acre field that used to be a hay field. Well, I've taken over about half of it. The other half is still probably going to be, there's another pity piece. The other half is still going to be probably farmed out for hay this year and maybe next year. But there was nothing here. It was a hay field. So I went ahead and we put in a single wide just to get moved in. And so we'd have someplace to stay close by, and just someplace to stay in general to kind of transition from our house being burned. You know, I did the best I could cheaply. So everything's paid for. We don't have any debt. I don't owe on anything. And so that was the route that we went. Got that all put in, and we have our tractor, and I have my older truck. No, it's older equipment. But when we bought the tractor, we paid around $14,000 for it, just to give you some numbers, and that's US dollars for anybody that is watching this that's outside. So we paid $14,000 for it, but the tractor itself came with, we bought a disc, a plow, and a blade as well to go on the back so that we could do all the farm work that we needed to do. And since then, I bought a 10-foot trailer for the back of my truck so we could haul stuff around, and we bought a post auger to put fence post in. And then I spent another good chunk of money on the rototill, which was about $3,000. So, you know, you can add all that stuff up. That's kind of what we're working with to start. I spent another $1,000 setting up, buying things. So we probably got a couple thousand in our chicken coop, and the rest is scavenged or salvaged material. A lot of the sheeting for the sides of the coop, and if you want to see it, go find my farm vlog video 1 on the channel. You can I kind of showed off at the beginning of that, and some of this other stuff I'm talking about as well. But this explanation is kind of just for general purposes to get an idea of numbers and being frugal, and to back up my point that I've spent all the time that I would have spent working has been spent salvaging, repurposing, and building. And that is time that if I was working full time for someone else, it wouldn't get done. The time just isn't there, because I spent days upon days doing this stuff. So we took down a building where our previous house was. That's where all the floor joists all the floor for our chicken coop came from. A lot of the sheeting for the sides came from that. And then the main framing of the walls came from that as well. But the main frame for the actual thing itself, we bought extra lumber that was treated so that it would be ground contact. Okay. I know I'm doing this in a Black Desert video, but I wanted to kind of set up something. There's a lot of background information that you need to know to understand my point that I want to make. So, all of that being said, I spent my time, instead of working somewhere else, I put my time into... I went and I salvaged a bunch of tin from an old building that we had, and that's what I used to build the roof on our coop out of. And then I salvaged quite a bit of other lumber and stuff, so that is what it did. And instead of working for somebody else, I put in hundreds of hours building this coop up. Now we're getting a dozen eggs a day out of our 15 hens, and we are probably going to have, when it's all said and done, close to 45 hens. So, you know, we're going to have 3 times that. We're going to be getting a huge amount of eggs every day when it's up and running fully. The other thing is going to be here where I'm at. Those are farm fresh, pretty well organic. I mean, they're not really getting anything, but they're going for $4 a dozen. That's what we're selling them for. And so it's going to take a little bit to recoup the couple thousand that we have in the coop, but we have a permanent source of eggs and a little bit of income off of that. So I did bring a lot of value, even though I didn't bring a lot of monetary gain out of it. It's very easy to go work somewhere and get monetary value that you trade your time for. I no longer see much point in that, other than we need this much cash to pay for our electric bill or our water bill. That's the only value that I see out of that. Otherwise, my time is better spent elsewhere because of the things that I know how to do. And to me, the value of my time is that I no longer have the huge amounts of anxiety that I had when I was working where I was. And now we have a permanent source of eggs, so when eggs go back to $9 a dozen in the store, guess what? It's costing me probably $1 a dozen by the time you... I mean, the more I get, the less they cost because of, like, chicken food consumption and that kind of stuff, you know. But, yes, that is my whole point of value is more than just monetary gain. We sat down, and when I say we, I mean my wife and I, we sat down, we talked about it, kind of worked it out to where, yes, we need this, and this, and we've got all these things, and it's like, well, this is going to take me this much time to get this done. I'm going to need this amount of resources. It's going to cost this much for those, and in terms of time, how much is this going to cost me? And different things like that. So my second point, and it's taken me a little bit to get here, is small farms don't make a lot of money. They make a lot of value, but they don't make a lot of money overall, unless you just turn yourself into a specialized big operation like a dairy farm or something like that, and then you have to be pretty big to actually make money. But in terms of value, if you're living, what am I stuck on? If you're living on a farm and you just want, like for us, it's basically, we want to grow our own food. We're tired of all the chemical stuff that is in all the food. We're having a lot of food problems and allergies and that kind of stuff, and just feeling really bad in general. And so you know, the value for us is raising all of our own food, having our own source of food that we don't have to rely on anyone or any store or anything like that. You know, if say the society ended tomorrow, as a hypothetical, and there was no store to go to, it wouldn't really make much of a difference to me. I mean, if electricity shut off, water would be the most difficult, but not that difficult still, being where I'm at. But if you couldn't go to the store tomorrow, where's your next meal coming from? Mine? I've got tons and tons of pounds of meat in the freezer, and if not, there's a bunch of it running around out there behind my house in the woods. There's lots of animals. Plus, we have all of our eggs now, and I've got, like I said, 700 vegetable plants of various varieties that we're going to be preserving a lot of that food. We're going to be doing canning. We're going to, so that was our other big issue, is the food security, just livelihood security in general. The value was more, we wanted to live the farm life, and so the value was there over the monetary. We had to give up my time being traded for big monetary gains versus my time being traded for building our farm up. But it's been worth it. It's been a lot of hard work, and I am very tired, but it is very worth it. But that is my second or third point, is that the big farms do okay. Small farms, they don't make much money. Like, I'll recoup some of the, like, all the extra produce that I have from the plants that I've planted and our extra eggs and stuff. Yes, I will be selling at like farmers markets and stuff like that. So we will get some money out of that, and the farm may get to where, after it's all built up and I stop pouring money into setting up new buildings and stuff like that, it may get to a point to where it breaks even or pays for itself and maybe even profitable. But my last point I want to touch on is to kind of wrap up and send home the whole idea of value versus monetary gain. When we sat down and talked about everything that we need, I have a certain way of going about and doing things that's probably different than a lot of people's. So we needed a roof for our chicken coop, and it's like, well, I could go to a store like Lowe's or Menards or even Home Depot and buy the materials to do that. Or I can go spend a couple of days scavenging, because we have a lot of old rundown buildings here on the backside of our farm that just, they're just dilapidated, and we aren't going to be doing anything with them. So I went and I pulled the roof off of one of them, collected all the all the extra lumber that I got from taking that down, and it cost me a day's worth of work. Overall, a couple of half days here and there. So I ended up saving that money. Yes, I traded my time for it, but that would be the same as working. And then, several $100s worth of materials. So, I count that as getting paid several $100s for my time. It's the same as if I was to go work several hours somewhere and get paid several $100s. Hold on, I need a drink. Oh, that coffee's not very good with it being cold. There's a difference between iced coffee and cold coffee, let me tell you. Coffee that's been brewed and cools off, not the best. Iced coffee, fantastic. Anyway, so, the value, being frugal is the other way that you make farm work. I mean, It's a complete lifestyle change. But I grew up this way, so I kind of have a sense of how things work here and what I need to do to make things profitable. Now, another example of this is like you sit down and you have hey, another pity piece. You have like a business plan for anything you go into, right? Well, for the farming, it's like, what do we need? What can we get? Where do we, where can we save money at? So it's like, today, I was faced with an issue of our chickens, they need dust baths. Birds do dust baths all the time, and my wife had bought a container of like dust bath stuff. I don't know what it's made out of. I assume some kind of ash. That's usually what you use. We don't have a wood stove here, but whenever I was a kid and we had chickens, we had a wood stove. We would just throw all the ashes from the wood stove out into the coop, and that's what they would dust bath in. It keeps the bugs down. You don't have to treat them for things, and it makes them happy. You know, they dust bath, but the ash is very good for them. So I'm faced with a problem. We either keep buying dust bath stuff from a company and spending liquid cash on it, or I solve the problem and create my own ash. So I have a chainsaw, three chainsaws actually, and I have a truck, and I live on a farm. So we're going to solve this problem without costing me anything but a little bit of time. There's tons and tons of trees that have fallen down around the farm that need to be cleaned up anyway. I'm going to take my truck, and I'm going to take my chainsaw, and I'm going to go cut and collect as much of this rotten, useless material as I can that needs to be cleaned up. And we're going to pile it up, and we're going to burn it. We're going to use it to cook a couple of different nights. And then whenever it's all burned down, we're going to take the ashes, and that's what the birds are going to dust bath in. And it's going to save us a huge amount of money and solve the problem of where it's going to come from. So, you know, it's just, you got to get a little inventive with small farm stuff. Same with, I got another problem that I have to solve, and maybe people that are wanting to hear about BDO content, I'm sorry, but grinding in BDO it is what it is. I'm just sitting here killing monsters for an hour, so I figured me telling real life stories would be better than me talking about what color the fetuses are while I'm slaying them and stuff. So I got another problem I have to solve. To give you an idea of the scale of things, I have about 4,000 square foot of garden beds right now. I made another 13-foot by 15-foot strawberry bed for my wife's strawberries that she wanted. So that's kind of what we have in terms of garden space currently. That's a lot of ground to cover, especially when you're planting by hand and when you are, you know, making the rows by hand and doing everything manually by hand, because I don't have a seeder or a big planter thing that goes on the back of the tractor like some farms do. So I'm doing it all by hand. Well, I have around, it's a little less than 200 tomato plants that are going out. And if you have any idea how much that is, you realize that's a lot of freaking tomato plants. You have to stake tomato plants. Or use tomato cages. Most people buy cages from Walmart, which we have a bunch from whenever I lived in town. We have a bunch of cages, so we're going to use some of those. But those cages are several dollars a piece, if not $5 or $6 a piece now. And there is no way that I'm going to go and buy enough cages to cage 200 tomato plants. I think it's like around 190 is what I have. There is no freaking way I'm doing it. So I'm gonna have to use a little redneck ingenuity and go scavenge some stuff. I'm either gonna have to go cut branches off trees to use for my stakes, to stake these mater plants, or I'm gonna have to do something else. So we've got enough cages to use for certain things, and a lot of people will, and I could do it this way, but I don't want to go buy the post. You buy steel T-post, which is just steel fence post, and drive them into the ground, and then you run planter's twine, or whatever you want to call it, string twine, between the post around the plants, and then you kind of use that as a guide. Yeah, I could do that, but now T-posts have went up, and they're about $6 to $7 a piece, and I would need one every couple of feet, every like 3-4 foot. My rows are, yeah, I'm gonna need like 30 or so of those, so that's several $100s worth of posts, and then I got to deal with the twine and tying it and doing all that. That's a pain. That's a pain in the butt. So I'm going to do things a little differently. We've got several fences on the farm that are run down, and so they've been fixed and stuff. We've got a lot of panels that were used for cattle. We used to run cattle a long time ago, and trees grow up in them. They get twisted and bent. I'm going to take my bolt cutters and I'm going to go cut all the straight pieces out of them, and I'm going to have steel tomato sticks out of something that's otherwise trash, because those steel panels, once they're bent, you don't use them for a fence again, because good luck trying to straighten them out. Those things are very, very thick and very hard to deal with once they're bent. So you just cut the good sections out of them and get different ones for your fence. So I'm going to do that, and then a package of zip ties that has 100 in them are, I don't know, a couple bucks. So I will be using the stakes that I make out of bent up panels, shoving them in the ground, and then loosely zip tying the plants to them. And then you can reuse zip ties, you just have to know how to take them apart, so that you don't break the teeth off of them, or you can cut them and throw them away. It's just several dollars per package, so it's not that big of a deal. It's a huge amount of savings. So we're going to save a huge amount of money, but it's going to take me time. I got to go and seek out and find all of the bent up pieces of fencing, and I have to go cut stakes out of trees and just different things. But it takes time. But you're either trading your time for liquid cash, or you're trading your time for resources, or you're trading your time for something else. But I would rather be working for myself than someone else, as long as we have one income that is paying for our utilities and our food in the interim. And as soon as our farm is up and completely running, and we are actually offloading products that we produce, the extra ones, we will be pretty much self-sufficient, and we won't need to work for somebody else. But that is my whole point. It's taken me 45 minutes to kind of explain everything and get here, but you have to burn at both ends. There is a term called burning the candle at both ends. It means something a little different than that, but I use it differently, and I play Black Desert this way. I play real life this way. And I run my farm this way, but it's my method of double burning, the double burn method, I call it. You reduce your cost as much as you can, as frugal as you can. You circumvent spending money any way that you can, while also trying to repurpose everything and make as much money as you can. So that's another thing. Cutting cable costs. We're probably turning off our Hulu, because we're paying like $20-something a month, and it's just useless. We don't watch it that much. It's just wasted money. And when you sit down and look at all of the factors and all of your bills and everything, you can actually save a huge amount of money. You just have to think about it and figure it out. So At one side, you're reducing the amount that is required for you to live. You're living on almost nothing, and so you're saving everything that you do make, and then you increase the amount that you make as best that you can. The double burn method. And I do that in Black Desert as well. I reduce the amount that I spend in silver, while also trying to maximize the amount that I have coming in. But a good example for this is I have to enhance for the Pen Black Star. I need certain amounts of resources for the Pen Black Star. Buying memory fragments costs me 3 billion. If I can fish overnight and build up relic shards and then run the relic scrolls, I save myself billions of silver. I can repurpose that silver into other things. If I'm grinding and getting black stones and massive pure magics, I don't have to worry about the stones. And then fail stacks, I'm also fishing and trading the fish in for the fail stacks, the event coelacanths, instead of making the silver. So, you know, I've effectively reduced my playtime to, like, my time spent. You know, I've reduced my required amount of silver per whatever task I'm trying to figure out to almost 0. So I am doing everything that I can. I run my real life like that too. You know, if I can reduce my bills to almost nothing, then you don't need an income and you're freed up to do what you want. And then whatever task you wanted to go at, try and save as much as you can, and then you don't need to worry. There's less stress, there's less problems. The corporate life, I'm not anti-establishment per se, but I think there's a lot of overreach in a lot of areas of our lives that should be reduced. And I also think that and this might be showing my age, or maybe just the fact that I grew up in a different time, or maybe it's just showing that I have a different mentality than other people. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that also have this same mentality. But when it comes to our school system and everything, I think that it's being wasted. I think our kids are no longer, or our youth, or our children, whatever term you want to use, they're not being taught what they should be. They're basically being programmed to be corporate drones. Companies, and even, dare say, our governments across the world, they want good little worker bees that are too busy droning on for pennies to uprise. You know, if you're keeping somebody busy struggling along, worrying about menial tasks day to day, then they don't have time to think and figure out that you're doing that you're getting away with things that you shouldn't be getting away with. And quality of life has been an issue where I've lived for a long time, and my drop buffs have went out. So I'm gonna make my way back to my horse up here, but quality of life, you know, taking for example where I live in the U.S., we're #1 country in the world, but economically, really, at least we were. You know, things have shifted recently, but there's no reason that there should be homeless. There's no reason that there should be people struggling to get health care. There's no reason that people should have to pay for their own education. You know, I'm pretty conservative overall, but these issues, I think our taxes should be going towards that. And I think that our school systems are set up in a way that is teaching people to chase things that aren't necessarily what you should be chasing, you know. And that was another big reason why I got out of the corporate world, is because, you know, you hear from the time you're a kid, oh, you got to get good grades to get into a good college to get a good career. But why do you need this career in the first place? You know, like I said, I'm not anybody that wants to go that route. Great. I hope it works for you. But when you start looking at the world differently, come talk to me, because you don't have to go down that path. And whenever you step back and think, my time is worth more than a big salary, and you look around and you think, you can have all the money in the world and it still doesn't buy you happiness. That's very true. Because, I mean, I had everything paid for. We were making savings every month. And my mental health had never been lower. I mean, I was so unhappy. Now, I don't have all that. You know, I left all that behind. And, yeah, the money isn't there like it was before. But I'm living my best life. And the work is hard. I'm exhausted. My body hurts. But I'm okay for once. You know, and it's very different. But I try to look at the bigger picture, and I see that our education system is churning out drones. Between social media and this cult following of you have to have the biggest career and make a huge salary, otherwise you don't have value. It's bull. It's a bunch of bull crap, and it's running a lot of people's lives. And and the reason I wanted to touch on this because I've seen some other videos of big creators talking about like, and here's an example of one of them that major like, what do they call it? Designer brands keep you poor. They have people chasing fancy cars. They have people chasing all this material crap. So you need these giant salaries. So you have to like go down this road of like the corporate path they've set you on. So you're farmed from the time you were born to the time that you die. You are farmed for a salary. They collect on your hospital bills when you're born. They make your parents pay these exorbitant amounts of money to bring you into the world. They farm you. They farm your parents for tax credits and stuff. They farm your parents for taxes for schools. Our education system turns you into a drone. Colleges, they're farming you for that. They're farming you for taxes from the time you're 18, for salary taxes. They're farming off your education, these huge amounts. These companies are siphoning off this money you're paying for these degrees that aren't worth anything. Then they're siphoning off huge amounts of your salary, sending all the money elsewhere other than helping the people in our country that need it, you know. And then then the medical system farms you. Anytime you have something wrong with it, they're pumping you full of all these chemicals through the food that we shouldn't have in our bodies. So it's just, you're a corporate money factory. And I choose not to participate. That's why I left. So, there's a little insight into Vengeancer's head. Maybe I'm crazy, I don't know. But, I'll quit ranting. Here's what we got for the drops. 6 pity pieces, about 17,000 trash loot. I was just kind of piddling, but not too bad. Not fantastic by any means. But, end of my rant. We choose what we spend our time on. If you choose to become a corporate drone and it works for you and you're happy, then good. I'm not happy like that. It took me 6-7 years to figure that out. I went through college. I went through 2 different major jobs in my career to realize, yes, I loved programming. I loved application development. Hated the corporate setting. Couldn't stand it. And so here we are. But that is basically the driving point of why I am now making YouTube content in my free time and on the side and doing farming as a main thing. Not so much farming for profit as I am farming to live. But if you produce everything yourself, you don't need money. And eventually you will be profitable. But not that you aren't profitable, it's all subjective. It lies in your perspective. So, hope you enjoyed my rant. The better part of the video was the second half. If you didn't, I understand. But if you did, please leave me a like. It does help the channel. And leave me your opinions in the comments, because I am very interested in what you have to say. So, have a good rest of your day, and as always, until next time.